Now, you're very welcome, Alana. And Alana has come on board as an apprentice from OEM to talk to us about why choosing to become an apprentice, taking that route on, and what it has allowed her in terms of qualification and work environment. So you're very welcome, Alana.
Thank you very
Now,
much for having me.
good. And with regard to, I suppose, the audience that we typically have are between students, parents, and guidance counselors. So it'd be worth starting off from the point of view of telling us a bit about OEM, what they do, and what kind of apprenticeships are on offer there.
So OEM is basically like the best way I kind of describe it to everybody is it's like a introduction into engineering. So you have a bit of everything really. So you have your electrical work, you have your hydraulics works, and then you also have your programming. So it's a bit of a taster into each area. Whereas I feel like a lot of apprenticeships are like solely electrical or they're solely mechanical or solely programming. So you have to really be nearly 100% sure that that's the avenue that you want to go down. Whereas with this apprenticeship, you have nearly three into one.
That's really good. The fact that, yeah, and you're right in saying that so many students sort of may not know, and especially if they're not exposed to subjects like technology or engineering from school. And I suppose with regard to the OEM, what products do they make that allows you and need you to have that electrical, robotic, mechanical?
Well, see, a lot of the OEM apprenticeship actually goes from a variety of different companies. Now, myself, I work for a company called Combilift, so we manufacture forklifts. But then, like, there's other people that could be in, working in dealing with tractors, or they could be dealing with like the dairy industry. They could be dealing with the rotation milkers and stuff like that. So it really gives you an opportunity of kind of you could nearly go anywhere with it. Do you know what I mean? With me, with a forklift background, I could nearly branch into other companies because we are learning the same, as I said, like introduction into all of these, like the hydraulics and the programming and the electrical. We're all getting the same learning throughout the course. The only difference is that when you're on the job training, that'll be solely to what company that you're working with.
And I want to backtrack. And I suppose I was alluding there to sort of subject students can do or have an opportunity to do. So when you were at school, tell us a bit about where your head was at. Did you know that it was apprenticeship that you wanted to go? Did you do practical subjects?
So it's quite funny when somebody asked me this, but so when I was in secondary school, I actually wanted to do veterinary nursing. And
Ah,
that was actually the route that I wanted to go down. So for my leaving cert, I didn't get the points in order to do the level 7 course. So I went and done the level 5 with the PLC, animal care, and then was trying to get into the PLC route. And then I also went on to do the level 6 in animal science. And I was just knocking on the door that wasn't opening. It was obviously showing me that this route wasn't for me. And I come from a building background, like my dad's a builder, and then I have uncles and cousins and stuff like that that would be coming from, construction background. And it just kind of was always, I was a tomboy growing up, with a with tractors, dumpers, all of those sort of things. So it was never something that I was shy from. And I remember one time I was driving on the road and I'd seen a big advertisement sign for the traineeship with Combilift. So basically, the traineeship was a level 5 engineering degree. Um, and again, it was just a 9-month program. So that was kind of my stepping stone into getting into Combilift. And then when I started in Combilift, I got the job offer after the traineeship, and then I worked there for about a year. And I was kind of having the thing of so I started working in the electrical department, and I was modifying the electrical looms, and then I was kind of branching out more to dealing with faults on the line. But because a lot of our trucks, you have the hydraulics as well as having the electrical, I didn't understand the hydraulics and how that all operated. So therefore, I was kind of struggling with having the confidence to say, no, I've my end's okay and everything works the way it should. Because I didn't understand the other end of it, I couldn't confidently say to the people there being like, oh, there's something mixed up, or there's a pipe mixed up, or there's a faulty component. That's really what attracted me to the apprenticeship, so that I could get a better understanding of how these individual things work, but also how they work together.
And it's interesting that you started off with the traineeship. So that sort of gave you and the employer a chance and breathing space. You didn't have to sign up from get-go. So at what point did you decide, was it after the 9 months of the traineeship, or was it when Combi Lift offered you? Sort of what happened at that stage?
So when I started the traineeship, it kind of works nearly the same as the apprenticeship, only it's a 1 year rather than the 3 years. So within the traineeship, like it's 9 months, but you do 12 weeks of on the job work. So within the first 3 weeks of that work placement, like I just fell in love with the work, just took like a duck to water, you know what I mean? And I was like, this is what I'm meant to do, you know what I mean? And
Okay.
then obviously as I got to see the company and I was really excited about different areas that there was a possibility of going into, how I could progress throughout the company as well. And also, like, it gave me such a confidence boost because then I started to do, talks and interviews and, video recordings and stuff like that. Like, when I was in school, like, you wouldn't hear me buying a newspaper, and now I'm sitting up talking to people. Like, it's like chalk and cheese,
And it's brilliant. And I suppose this is probably why they asked you the fact that it's a girl. And I presume the proportion of girls versus lads doing it would be quite low.
Oh, of course, yeah. Because even in the apprenticeship, like I was the only girl in my class. So there was about 10 to 12 of us, and I was the only girl. So it
Is
is,
that
yeah,
improving?
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Well,
It is definitely improving, yeah, without a doubt.
brilliant. So what stage are you at now, Alana?
I've graduated, so I'm graduated now about coming up to 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. And in that process of going from the traineeship to the apprenticeship, describe to our listeners what it's like to train as an apprentice in terms of the on the job, off the job, and how it sort of progressed through that time.
Well, it was great to see. I think I loved it coming from Combi that I had been working and I've had kind of seen how things operated in the factory. And then whenever I went into the college, I was able to sort of piece a couple of things together that I knew I didn't understand, and therefore I was more eager to get to know, like, as I said, like the hydraulics. Like, I was tuned in from the get go. I was like, that's something that I really don't understand. That's something that I want to get a lot of knowledge in, and even stuff that I was doing like every day, like I was nearly doing it out of habit but I didn't fully understand how everything worked, and why it worked that way. And it was great to be able to go into college and get it from the basic steps and then slowly work it up to, what I was doing every day and actually getting to I feel like then whenever anything came in and there was an extra change being made, I was able to nearly work out in my own head how we could go about doing that because I could understand it so much better. And then also whenever you're in college and then you go back to the job, like I found such a difference in myself. I found myself having more confidence because again, like I could understand what I was doing and why I was doing it, and also like just had more confidence in myself, that I can do this, you know.
And how did you find sort of going through the college phases or in terms of phase one, two, and three with college?
It was great. It definitely, like, without a doubt, like the tutors were fantastic. Like anything that anybody needed help with, they were more than willing to, even um some people in the class, maybe struggle with maths. Some people might not have done, like I hadn't really dealt much with maths since my leaving cert. So that was a couple of years out, and there's some things that you're a bit rusty to start off with or whatever, but they would bring in, extra maths help for anybody that was maybe struggling. Similar to like if somebody, was maybe doing an ordinary level maths and then some of it was a bit of physics in the apprenticeship, like they'd bring in that extra help just to kind of get them over the line. And then because the apprenticeships are so different to like your schoolwork, it's not a case that you're doing 2 years in one exam. It's broken up into assignments or it's broken up into like what we call a skills demo. Like you'll physically do something and then you'll do the write up of it, and it makes it exciting to do it, and it makes it a lot easier to write about it because you've done it. You've physically
Yeah.
done it. You have your images. You're basically just describing what you have physically done, and it makes an awful difference rather than like most of us, like stuff in school. We don't like doing it, but unfortunately, we have to do it to get across the line. But at least now, when you're in an apprenticeship, that it's something that you love and you enjoy doing, you're gonna give it your all.
And just as a matter of interest, I know you'd sort of initially want to do the veterinary nursing. So what subjects did you do in terms of junior cycle, senior cycle? Were you doing practical subjects?
Yeah, so I would have done construction because yeah, I've like with my dad being a builder and stuff like that. Like I loved construction. The only other courses that I would have done was chemistry and then agriculture science because obviously that was heading towards the veterinary end of things. But like I always say to somebody, like it's never like I never regret going that route. Do you know what I mean? Because if I didn't do it, I would have always been left with what if, or maybe that was for me, or But the fact that I've done it, I can definitely say 100% that wasn't meant for me, and now I have found a job that I do love. So I don't see it as wasted years. I feel like a lot of people are so worried about, well, what if I do something for a year or two and that's a wasted time? It's not.
No. And if it, like, because we don't automatically know what we like and love until we try things out. And even you're saying there within the first 3 weeks of the practical experience. So it just really highlights the importance of work experience
Oh, of
and
course,
students
yeah.
get an opportunity to do that. So really embrace that. But I'm interested to hear you say that you love the construction studies. So I suppose for those students listening in, pay attention to the subjects that you loved and what part of the subjects you loved, because it makes sense to me that the practical subjects you'd have enjoyed more.
Oh, of course, yeah, without a doubt. Definitely would have loved the practical. Like, looking back, like if I had a known now, I probably would have done engineering as well. Do you know what I mean? But that's all like a learning curveball that, like, it's to listen to your gut more, about what you do love to do. Like, I mean, so many people are so fixated on, being doctors or, a big high-end job. But like at the end of the day, like if you don't love it, what's the point of doing it? That's the way I look at it.
And I'm loving to see that there's more developing in the area of apprenticeship. Now we're up to 77 apprenticeships, which is fantastic. But we're seeing the universities even now. I know University of Limerick have something like 6 or 7 different apprenticeships up to level 10. So for you with Combi Lift and your apprenticeship, what level are you? You'd level 5 with the traineeship.
Yeah, and then it's level 6 with the apprenticeship.
And what's like in the last 2 years since you have qualified, have you stayed with Combi Lift?
Yeah, I've stayed with Combi Lift. I've moved into the research and development area, so I'm working on new machines. Like trying to sort of nail down on getting new machines out and moving them into different production lines. So it's been exciting. It's been something that I've wanted since I started, 6 years ago. But
That's
yeah,
yeah, and that's really interesting because I suppose apprenticeship, you'd assume that people are sort of just going to be doing the nuts and bolts, but to hear that you have this opportunity to be involved in research and
mhm.
development is fantastic. So what's the future ambition? What do you hope to do with all of this and move on?
Yeah, it's always it's hard to know because like when you've looked forward to something for so long, and then you finally have it, you're trying to see because I've only been in it in maybe the past 7 or 8 months, so it's still relatively new for me. But I think growing up, maybe supervisor role, manager role, I just want to keep ticking up my way. You know what I mean? I think it's great to have like I try to drive myself continuously because like I said like when school I was completely different, and I feel like now I'm really trying to be my own cheerleader and just kind of keep pushing, keep going.
I love the pun you used there, drive, giving yourself drive. But from the point of view of do you see education as being part of the picture that you need to do more, or have you sort of
I
just keep
definitely
working?
would. Yeah, I definitely would like to continue more, possibly do like a level 7 and then, progress on to that. I just haven't fully decided which area I would like to do that in, whether it's going to be electrical or maybe perhaps programming. So that's two avenues that I just haven't fully decided which I want to do yet with it. But at the moment, I'm quite happy where I am, and I probably will do part-time courses in the meantime. Like maybe branch out to like different courses like welding and stuff like that because I am in research and development. I'm working on new things that I would never have even done before, even throughout the couple of years working in combi lift. So it's new sort of techniques that I want to tweak, so I kind of build an overall career for myself.
And that it is, and that's the big thing. We're sort of needing to build up those little RPLs, as it were, recognized prior learning, and that will build up. And come here, Alana, it's so lovely talking to you. And I'm really glad that you came on today, and more power to more girls going into apprenticeships. It's lovely to see. And if you say the last or final word from the point of view of for those students and parents listening in, what tips would you say? And I know you've given some really valuable ones as we went along. What would be the key things you'd ask parents and students to think of before making their choices?
I think a lot of the times, like I say to people, like you've got to do what you want to do. Like, I mean, there's been many nights where there's been open nights, but regarding like the apprenticeship or the traineeship, and especially in Conbliff itself. And I'd be talking to students, and a lot of the times I feel the parent would be like, oh, they have to go into the engineering drawing room or they have to do this. And I'm looking at the child and I'm like, the more want to do that than the man in the moon does, And at the end of the day, like I can totally understand parents wanting their kids to have a great job and, it's great that they do care so much. But at the end of the day, like they have to do something that they enjoy doing, and a lot of people don't have to have it figured out straight away. Like I'd advise people, even if you want to work for a year or something in between until you find something that you do want to do, because if you don't do something that you don't love, you're not going to give it your all. So therefore, you're never going to get the outcome that you would like to have. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that go into something and they've got brains to burn, but because they don't like it, they're kind of
Wasted.
doing it and it's wasted. So it is. Whereas that could be given to something else and they could, sky's the limit for
And I
anybody. But
suppose,
it's just
and
you
what you
have
were
to want it.
describing, yeah, and what you were describing is within the first 3 weeks of that practical experience, you know, this is for me. And then it's unfolding as you go along. And the research you wouldn't have known until you
No, I
sort of
never would have known
experienced it.
until I was in it. And like that's what I'd advise to a lot of people, like even in transition year or fifth year or sixth year, like when it comes to your summer holidays and stuff like that, I always encourage people go do a bit of work experience, even if it's only 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because when you're in school, you're not going to be dealing with those kind of hands-on experience. So it's great to get them when you can. And at least then you can say for yourself, that's 100% I don't want to go into that, or oh, maybe I might like that. I might give that a try and see what it's like. But you'll never know until you give it a shot.
So come here. Thank you again, Alana, for coming on board and talking to us about apprenticeship route for you. It was really insightful. So
Thank you
take
very much.
care.
Thank you.